Why have you brought us here today, Brad?
Come on, man.
Okay, we're here at the Incredibles Blu-ray Roundtable, and I suppose the point of this is some degree of historical perspective now that we're all of our wounds have healed from the project, and everyone here has a key role on the film, and yeah, everybody's just watching. Let's see how far he goes before he becomes totally uncomfortable. Yeah.
Which is about
Now. Do you remember there was a former head of Disney that was not a fan of the movie, and it was a funny meeting because
It was not funny for me.
no, funny in retrospect.
Yeah, in retrospect, but it was, we were at a table like this at the Disney boardroom, and we were waiting, right? We had our little 20-minute presentation ready, and the guy who we were presenting to came in, or we heard him get off the elevator and just say, "It's a live-action movie. I don't even know why
he
they're
hasn't
here."
even come into the room yet, and he's like yelling ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do the pitch, and boy, he didn't like it, and he just started ripping into it, and started telling Brad what animation could and couldn't do, and I went, because he was pretty brutal, and I could see you steaming, and I thought, he's gonna hit him. He's gonna hit him. And if he hits him, that's kind of the end of our job. so I got ready, and instead of him hitting him, and this is like probably my proudest moment of you, is you took all of this abuse and sort of just turned to John and went, "Well, John."
Well, I felt like I had the magic Lassiter ticket, and if ever there was a moment to press the little
it was like,
John button. So, and John was like, "Well, I hear the criticisms, but we like this idea, and we'd like to just pursue it a little further." And he just kind of managed it in a way that didn't challenge the executive, but kind of just kept the blood flowing into the project, and because he felt like if the blood can continue to flow into the project will speak for itself. And he had to do a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that we'll never know about, though. And a little afterwards, we showed the story reels, and they knew what the movie was. And once they knew what the movie was, they were fine with it.
Right, and to his credit, after the film came out, he got back to both of us and said, I was wrong about that. It's a great movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Tony was the one who worked with me first on this. After I initially had the idea, Tony did the very, very first drawings, and this was like
93.
probably, almost a decade before we started making it.
Yeah, it was like a couple hours of work, so it was very loose. I didn't expect it to be in an art up book. That's the one thing. But, I didn't want anybody. I thought no one would actually see it. Yeah, because it was just early exploration stuff, and then we were going to do more later.
The only one that was wrong
Except
was
Dash.
Dash. Yeah.
Dash.
Yeah, he's like the
was not
Campbell
right.
Soup kid.
Yeah, he looked like he was ready to sell a product in the early 60s, yeah.
For a while, everybody could fly
Oh, right.
except Dad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was one of the first ideas, and then I realized it was going to limit things way too much, because I think that's a common mistake that a lot of superhero films and superheroes have, is that their powers are kind of unlimited. For about 10 minutes, Bob could do that.
It was a little longer than that.
And I went, if he can do that, then we're going to be screwed, because he could get out of any situation, and
Why wouldn't he use it?
yeah,
Laser
yeah.
vision?
And that was fatal in our film, because it was supposed to be an adventure film where you were genuinely worried whether they were going to make it. And I'm very proud of the work that we did, because the audience, when we finally got to show it, they were gripping the armrests, and they were worried about them, and I felt like that was a big success.
When mom opens up on the parachute, you people would cheer.
Right, yeah. So what would you think was the biggest challenge animation-wise of putting this on screen?
I think for Bob in particular, stopping and starting was one of the hardest things for us. Remember that one scene where he was walking down the hall and turning? it's just getting some of that simple stuff.
Well, part of
Making
it
it
is
work.
the shape of his body,
Yeah.
because he has these tiny little feet and massive
Top-
hands.
Yeah, and he's top heavy too. So
Yeah.
if we have him stop, and it looks like there's 550 pounds that have to slow down.
Right. It's funny because we're doing stuff that's physically impossible left and right, but we were very concerned about making it look credible, you know, that they weighed this many pounds and their bodies are moving through space and they're changing direction, and we had to show that stuff was heavy to him and all of that. But it's also the weird things that we got away with, and you know, the things that aren't as common in animation, and they're little things. It's not like it's a radical thing that doesn't have any precedent, but the fact that it looks like the mom and the dad love each other and have a physical relationship that actually feels physical, and also that you could have Bob grabbing Mirage and threatening to break her in half and have it actually play. You know, even though everybody's stylized, and having it move from those to moments of humor and not be dishonest to either moment, you know. I was happy that we pulled that stuff off.
There was that time where we had that company meeting and Ed read that question.
What question?
The question, are we being too ambitious? And we were just getting going. And you
Right.
raised your hand and said, I'll take this one, Ed, wanting to answer, and got up and talked about why being ambitious was a good thing.
Right. Well, I felt like this was the one place on Earth that should be regularly ambitious because they had the courage and fortitude to do it. It seemed like The Incredibles was a big bite. Everything that we wanted to do was stuff that CG animation had real trouble doing at the time. First and foremost, humans, you know. They'd always struggled to do humans, and here we had nothing but humans. That's all we had.
And just the scale of the film, all the locations, how effects heavy it was.
Yeah.
It had the inciting event that the film was essentially impossible.
All of us were like, yeah, let's do it. You know, it's not impossible, is it? And Rick was like,
Yes, it's kind of impossible.
it's kind of impossible. When you got onto it and you were worried about it, I remember you were always very calm, but what was the first sort of light in the forest?
Well, for me, the one from the very beginning was that you had boards that you were clear about. You look at it and go, okay, that's what we're going to do. And I used to get in trouble for doing that because there was the Disney version of storyboards where it's only about story, it's not about shooting. And I tried,
Right.
well, you said it's a two-shot with it. No. So when we started sticking to it, that was like, yeah, that's what I've been saying. Yeah, it's going to work.
To tell the story, you have to tell it with, you know, cinematography, the composition, what's happening in the background. We threw in lighting paths for the first time. We wanted a seamless reel going from these static images to the full-blown camera moves. But at the end, the questions vanished.
Right.
Right.
You know, what is it going to be? Vanished. I remember Steve Jobs walked out and said, why don't we just release that? It was all done.
Well, and we ended up relying on it tremendously.
Yeah.
I mean, remember that there was a couple of really difficult shots. I remember the jet blowing up was one of the shots that was toughest because we were blowing apart the jet, and then the characters had to come up to the camera, and then we were kind of going over them as they were going down and through the clouds. And I remember you saying, as long as we know what's happening on each frame, we can plan around that. And there was a lot of Scotch tape and baling wire to make those shots work, but you know, the shot came off in the movie exactly how I wanted it to come off.
Because we didn't try to build the whole thing so that you could cover it from any angle and have it be perfect.
Right.
Yeah. You cheated.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that.
A lot of that, yeah.
The supers aren't gone, Mr. Incredible. You're still here. You can still do great things. Or you can listen to police scanners. Your choice.
That was a really hard thing to figure out in the movie because he needed to get the assignment that got him to the rest of the story. And the context of it was always tricky, and I couldn't lick it. And I remember the biggest crisis in storyboarding happened over this issue because I kind of went away. And the storyboard crew was feeling kind of disconnected and unloved. And remember that?
You know, I told the guys, look, we're firemen when we work with Brad Bird. We're firemen, right? We got to be on the ball when he needs us, put out the fire. We come down the pole. All the other time, we can goof off, right? Relax, draw something for yourself, see a movie at lunch, whatever. But they're not used to working in that kind of environment. You know, they're all, Brad doesn't love us anymore because we're no longer in meetings and he doesn't want our input and da-da-da-da-da. So all this stuff was going, they stopped talking to me for some reason. When I would tell them not to worry about it. And then our story manager came in at the time and said, the guys are really low morale. Low morale. They're thinking about jumping ship. I'm all, they're going to jump ship on The Incredibles and go to some other movie? I walk right into John's office. Everybody's going to jump ship. John popped up. Want to go on another? We got to talk to Brad. And then we came into you and I said, they're going to jump ship. And go to what? 5 minutes. We're going to have a meeting in 5 minutes. So we get in this meeting and everybody's sitting around the table and Brad starts talking, right? He starts explaining why this is happening, what he needs to solve, and he could do it. And basically, you know, when he gets, he's going to give it to us, and he knows we're going to knock it out of the park. But he needs da 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 da. And he's looking at this room of guys going, deer in the headlights. And when Brad faces deer in the headlights, it's not that they're not getting it, but Brad thinks they're not getting it. So he ratchets up the level to make sure that they get it or they're hearing him. And Brad gets redder and redder, and he has this red ball that he starts off ignoring, that he then is grabbing, and that he then is bouncing, and then at one point, when he reaches the climax, he goes, I know it's gonna be great, and he heaves it across the room, you know, and I'm on the end of the table going, yeah, that's Bird, baby, that's why I work for this man, yeah, and he heads out all excited, thinking, I've sold him, yeah, and he leaves, and I turn around to the guys, I'm all, so guys, and they're like, shaking like chihuahuas in sweat. Does he hate us? I'm all, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it was shortly after that. After that meeting, it was 2 days later,
fine,
and you
yeah,
came
everything
out,
was
you
fine.
said, I got it, and you slapped it.
Red ball.
You know, there it is.
But all they remembered is that I yelled on a red ball.
Yeah.
Well, it was pretty memorable, you know?
Yeah.
Coming to Pixar was like a revelation to me because for almost my whole career, the only the feedback that I got consistently about being a manager or a producer was that, hey, listen, man, you got to toughen up. You know, you gotta fire some more people. This is not fun and games here. So for 20 years, I was like, yeah, man, I gotta fire some more people. I gotta get tougher. I gotta get more of an edge. So I would work on that. That was what I worked on because that's the feedback I got.
But you're not that guy.
I'm not that guy, but I would work on it. And I got to Pixar, and 3 weeks after being here, I got called into Sarah MacArthur's office. And she goes, John, listen, we got to talk. I said, well, what is it? I'm getting ready for you got to tough it up. She goes, listen, you got to back off a little bit, man.
You got to stop firing guys.
I said, I think I found my home, you know?
There was a lot of us versus them when we first got there. When we first rolled into Pixar, whenever you would talk about, it would be us and them. And I remember that time where you finally said, we,
yeah,
you know,
me and Pixar.
Well, our leader has finally accepted that this is an okay place to be, you know?
Every once in a while, in fact, last week I got asked by somebody, did you know that Syndrome, he kind of looks like you? What was the idea behind that? And I went, well, actually, I was completely blind to it until we were too deep into production. I probably would have said, you got to change that if I'd known it. But I was just
Syndrome.
blind to it.
It was everybody.
Everybody looked like you.
They all sounded like
Bob
you.
does
Dash
not
looks
look like
you.
me.
I've seen your baby pictures. Jack looks like you.
No, that's not true.
No, you were looking at a profile of Syndrome, and you're talking about it, and we're tweaking something. He's like, I know what you guys are doing, by the way. I don't know at what point we were.
But it was too late by that point.
It was too late by that point,
Yeah. I
What
knew
you guys
that.
are doing, by the way.
Yeah, you guys made that stamp. Yeah, and it was
approval
like,
stamp.
yeah, and
Every
then
show has an
Every
approval
show has
stamp.
yeah, you make
Oh, yeah.
you make the stamps to say when something is approved. And usually you find something kind of
positive.
Positive and
Yeah, like, it's
funny,
great.
like it's great, or
It's great. Nice
okay.
job.
It had you, but it was a bunch of swear words.
It had yeah, man, blankety blank, man.
But if something was really good, that stamp meant like, yeah. You know,
It was clear what it meant.
yeah. But there was the one, do we like this?
Do we like
Well,
this?
because
stamp?
I
Love
would
that.
say that.
Like, do we like this? And so we made the stamp of that.
Wait, translated was, I don't like this.
But he's gonna say it in a very diplomatic way. Do we like this? Anybody else? Like this?
You always did these terrible drawings of me, like
The grumpy dwarf.
Yeah, the grumpy dwarf, and I'm always wearing a stupid hat. But I'm like, why am I always angry and I feel like I'm a positive guy.
No,
I don't get
it's
that.
good. It's positive energy,
Through
passionate.
negativity.
Yeah. But it just looks like negativity.
I remember the review where you stamped something. You were like, "Hey, we need this. It has to be approved. It has to go to modeling. And, I'm gonna approve it, but that doesn't mean I like it." And
Well, you even said, but I'm not putting my camera there.
you took the stamp and you stamped it so hard that the ink splattered like blood on the wall. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But that's how you learn. That's when I thought, let's not show things out of context.
Let's not do that again.
Well, that was the whole thing, right? Was the review process at Pixar at that point was each thing like this.
By itself.
You would have a review where you'd come in today, coffee cups, and you'd look like a million coffee cups. Every one of them were put up like they were in the Louvre. And you're going, is this like the world's most important coffee cup, or is it, you just didn't know. One of the things we tried to institute, and I think they were starting to do it on Nemo too, right? Was context. You know, is it important or is it not? Because the amount of stuff that you have to design in these things is frightening.
Yeah.
Or the parking meters, the
Yeah.
6 faces of parking meters. And
Yeah.
Brad's like, I don't like any of these, maybe a little bit of this. And John goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, it's on a street. We're going by them like
Yeah.
this. And you're all, oh, that one, that one, that one. Let's move on.
Yeah, so we started saying that we're gonna put it in the shot the way it will be on screen. And certain things like sucked out loud, right? Like, you know, I'm drawing your attention and I stink, you know? But a lot of things were not drawing your attention, and we'd go, fine, let's fix that one thing that over there that needs fixing. And then the guy who did one of the things that stank that was not being seen was like, I'd really like to fix that. And it's like, you're the only one that's gonna know. We need you for more important stuff. Let's move on to the next thing. And that saved our butt in the film because it kept it producible, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's been 2.5 years on this show. I'm worn out. Brad's worn us out.
At the end of animation, everyone was just completely depleted. I remember the animation department did a t-shirt of a tube of toothpaste with the Incredibles logo on it, and every molecule of toothpaste has been wrung out of this tube. It's like that's the image of everyone on the film. Was there was absolutely not any more that could have been given to that movie than was given.
Well, and at Pixar, you spend, at least I did, I spent 4 years just praying every night that we weren't going to be the guys that made Pixar's first flop, right?
Right.
It's like, you're like, please, God, let it be the next guy, you know? But not me, you know?
You know that it's gonna catch
Yeah,
up.
that's right. It's like, the only thing I ever feel in these things is just relief.
Yeah, that's really what it was,
yeah.
more than anything, because I had been living with it for a long time in my brain, and to have it get out into the world. And it was really fantastic to hear them talking about it like it was now part of their experience of going to the movies. And
I remember it being, I was so emotional the very first time I saw it. I was actually in tears, you know, that night I first saw it. I couldn't believe it. And then I went to go see it again with a real audience, like a normal, like everyday audience. And I was amazed how quiet they were for the longest time. And I was thinking, God, I hope they like it. What's going on, you know? But they were actually listening, even after the credits. they stayed, which you never see much of that anymore. And they're kind of talking to each other. And that was very impressive to me for an animated picture in particular.
Well, the other thing that I was really happy about afterwards was it garnered some press for controversial reasons. I remember the New York Times had a discussion about the over-trophying of kids. You know, everyone gets a trophy whether they cared or not. And everyone sort of seemed surprised that there was anything to talk about with an animated film with superheroes, you know, because it seems on the surface like such a sort of pop, you know, thing.
I was proud to have been part of it after it came out. I mean, I was really, like everyone else, exhausted, but it was the first project I'd worked on that was that big, where the original intention was maintained all the way through the
And that's
end.
what you were really worried about at the beginning.
You're right.
About it getting watered down or...
Yeah, and look, you know, even though I thought you were overly worried, I love the fact that you cared that much about it.
It's like totally killed.
That you were willing to get passionate about it. That told me that, you know, you were the right man for the job. And I never had trouble with people that are passionate about the work, even if it makes them sometimes a little more difficult to work with. I feel like for this much more difficult to work with, you're getting this much more for the film. And I felt like everybody involved with the film really did care. And that was one of the reasons, you know, I had a great time making it. And looking back on it, the fact that it was so hard and we kind of came through and made, like you said, made the movie that we originally set out to make was hugely gratifying. And I hope to have another experience that is as gratifying as that, but you know, maybe I never will, but even then I'll be happy that I had one. Yeah.